shimmering indie pop, including their song Deep Side, which has gone viral on TikTok, garnering over 2 million views and the attention of Kevin Bacon. And their new album, A Time for Everything, is coming September 13th. Please welcome Meghan Kelleher of Divine Sweater to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Thank you. Thanks for that intro. I'm doing great today.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm really
yeah, I'm
excited to be
excited
here.
to get to know more about you, the band, this upcoming album, just everything,
Awesome.
everything.
Great.
And so the first question I want to start off with, and usually start off with, is just what like got you into music, or what was your first like big experience with music like?
Yeah. So I'm from a very big Irish family, so music is really like the center of all of our gatherings, and my uncle is a really incredible musician, and I grew up like going to his shows a lot, playing in like bars and like cultural centers and family gatherings as well. And so he like taught me how to play guitar, and I just kind of like learned from watching him and my other relatives sing that I really wanted to be a performer and wanted to be a singer. And then in college, I met Sean Seaver and Chris, our guitarist and drummer. And they actually were in a band together, and I was like a big fan of their band. And then I went to one of their shows in Boston at Great Scott, and their singer didn't come to the show. And so Sean knew that like I knew the words to their song, so he was like, "Could you just sing with us tonight?" So I did that, and then I kind of just like have been playing music with those two since. So I kind of like joined that band, and then that band slowly morphed into Divine Sweater. So that was like my big first moment, like playing in an actual venue. And yeah, we've done like a lot of awesome stuff since then. So
Yeah,
that's kind of
awesome.
how it started.
I love that story of just like needing a singer, and you just happen to be there to
Yeah.
get brought up and like step in for it, and it seems to work out perfectly because, like you said, that's now evolved into Divine Sweater. When you're forming this band, or you have a better idea of it, where does that name Divine Sweater come from?
Yeah, so when I joined Sean and Chris, the band was called Small Talk, and it was like other people in the band too, so it wasn't like the five of us that have been Divine Sweater. And Small Talk is a great band name, but there's like a million Small Talks. Like there's so many bands with that name. So like we were getting like booked for shows that like people thought they were booking a different Small Talk, and they booked us, and like putting music on Spotify was going on the wrong people's like play like pages and things
Yeah,
like that.
pages. Yeah.
We knew that we needed something that was like very, very unique, easy to search, easy to remember if someone saw us live. And Sean, his great uncle, was a friar at Providence College, and he gave him this sweater that just was a lucky sweater. Like whenever Sean was wearing it, just good things would happen to him. Or if he wore it to like a show, the show always went really well. And so we just always called it the Divine Sweater since like his friar great uncle gave it to him. And then when we were thinking of a new band name, we were like, that's a good, interesting combination of words that other people probably aren't going to think of. So we went with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. To be fair, I haven't heard of any other Divine Sweaters, so it seems to
Yeah.
have worked.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, I feel like there are a couple of band names that like I feel like I keep hearing about them, but it's actually like different bands all with the same name, and it's like
Right.
okay, it's you really got to be unique now, especially with everyone seemingly getting into music and trying to be an artist or be a band. And so
Yeah.
if there is another band or another person like wanting to sing, wanting to get a band, and they're trying to start and release music, what tips or advice would you give to them?
Yeah, I would say start a band with people that you love and that you're friends with. I think we've all seen like it's so easy for bands to break up because it's
Yeah,
hard, and like for so long you don't make like any money, and you're like traveling in like small cars together for hours on end, and like you all have different creative visions, and like so there's things that really get in the way of being a band. But like I'm just so lucky that my band is five best friends, and like people who have been like people in my band have been friends with each other since like high school. So like that I think is the most important thing, is who you start your band with. And I think that it's more important than like anything else. Like I think a lot of people are probably tempted to be like, I want to be in a band with like absolute best musicians like of all time or like whatever, and I think that that's
Yeah.
awesome, but I just feel like friendship and like relationship is actually what makes a band last long. Um, and what makes like music that's collaborative. So I would definitely say that. And then I would say we're in a really weird age with music where everything is kind of like tied to social media. And I would just say that like letting your personality out on social media feels weird at first, but just getting over that hurdle and just like going for it and like letting people see your personality, not being afraid to kind of like look silly on there, I think is important. And I think that it prevents a lot of people from like really going for it because they're like, this feels dumb or like, this is embarrassing or whatever. But it's just kind of like the new age of music. And there's so many bands. And if you want to stand out, like showing people your personality is a good way to do that, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And it is a big thing of like, I mean, don't get me started on the whole social media thing. That's like a huge thing nowadays for music and really anything else.
Yeah.
Seems to like somehow revolve around that. But back to what you were saying with like having a band be like friends or going based off relationships first is I think I mean I haven't been in a band before, but from what I've heard of friends being in bands and things like that, it's super important. I had another band on here a while back that were saying the same thing, and they brought up, when you're a band, it's not just like meet up for rehearsals or shows or studio sessions and things like that. Like you're hanging out a bunch. There's downtime in the studio. You're driving from gig to gig, so it's a lot of hanging out as friends, and that should be the priority. And then also like how does the band dynamic work? What can you play? How well can you play? And things like that. But yeah, building from like the friendship or the relationship as the base of it.
Definitely. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so important.
And so I'm wondering if because it seems like with that it's been probably a tight knit group the whole time. Has there ever been thoughts of like changing band members? Does the band break up? Like any taking a break or anything like that? Or has it just been like steady and good throughout the band's history?
Yeah, so as Divine Sweater, like it's been really steady. It's really just been the five of us. Sometimes we bring other people in for instruments that we don't play. Like we have friends who like play like horns or strings, and so will like bring people in often. But like, yeah, we're really steady and like set in this is the five-piece band. Like, and there really hasn't never been any doubt about that. And again, like I met Chris and Sean in college, but Chris and Sean had been playing music together since high school, and then Steve and Alex, our keys player and bass player, had been playing music together since high school. So like the bond is deep, and I think I'm lucky that I kind of lucked into getting added to all those friendships. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's been really steady, and that doesn't mean that like it's not hard sometimes. Like especially touring can be like tricky because you're in cars with each other for so long. You're like sharing a hotel room. You're tired and you're eating fast food and like your body feels awful and then it's just kind of like how do we stay like positive and have a good time, but yeah, so it's not without its challenges, but we've done a pretty good job of really staying solid as a five piece.
Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. And I mean, even just like music wise, you guys have a pretty unique sound. And being a five piece, it's like you're all playing the instruments. Obviously, it's not like overly produced or anything like that. But today there's a lot of like super produced stuff. There's things like just going for like a catchy hook, like you said, for social media that makes it
Right.
viral. What do you think about that whole I don't want to say movement, but basically a movement towards like social media music, I'll say, or like making music that is trying to go viral.
Yeah, I think it's like a bad idea to write a song that like for the use of social media because um it's social media is like a fleeting thing, and like music is a everlasting thing. Like
Yeah,
we listen to music from centuries ago, so like music is what's gonna last, not like social media and not social media trends, and like any of these apps could go away tomorrow. So like that's another big thing for bands is like um we like try to have a really strong like mailing list. So we try to like keep track of like how else we could, keep in touch with these people if like social media just went away. But anyway, that's a tangent. I think it's a bad idea to write a song for social media. And I also think for us, it's really important that like any song we write, we should be able to play it live close enough to like what it sounds like on the recording. It's never going to be exactly the same, but for us, it's really important that our songs are something we can like replicate in a live space. I love going to live shows, and I feel like it's the coolest thing when you hear a song a bunch of times, like on like when you're listening on
Yeah,
streaming or like on a record, and then you go see it live, and you're like, whoa, like this is a whole new. I now have like a whole new relationship with this song.
yeah,
So
no, it's awesome.
yeah, so for us, that's just super important. Like we have to be able to play the songs live. I don't. We have like very few songs that we couldn't play live if we wanted to.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. And with all five of you like being a part of the band, what does that look like in the creative process or in the studio? How does that dynamic work when you're coming up with like songs or albums?
Yeah, so we're very collaborative. Um, I would say so. Sean and I write like a lot of the first versions of songs, and usually Sean is writing like the instrumental, and then I'm writing the lyrics and melody, but not 100% of the time. Like he also does a lot of the lyrics and melody as well. And then other folks in our band will bring songs to the group as well. I would say, yeah, most of the songs kind of came from like Sean coming up with an idea and then we all like collab over it. Um, but yeah, then there's other songs that really just come out of nowhere. Like we have some songs on this record that like literally the week before we went into the studio, like someone else in our band was like, "Oh, could we just like try this?" And then it ends up on the record. So very collaborative. We all have really different like influences, so I think that that adds to like our sound being kind of unique.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. And I mean, I'm sure, like you kind of mentioned there, with five people, you're coming in with all these different inspirations or bands or an artist that you guys like. For you specifically, is there any one that you like take inspiration from when heading into the studio?
Yeah, I love the Cranberries. They're a band that I really, really admire, and like I really am interested in like the way that um, like she sings. I think about it a lot, and I like try to replicate it. And I also think that she's someone when I was like starting out, since I was saying like I'm in this very Irish family, I just like learned how to sing by kind of just like trying to sing like her and trying to sing those songs. So definitely think about her. I also really like the Cocktail Twins. So our whole band, I think, is really influenced by them. But I think the way that they layer vocal harmonies is really cool to me, and I like try to capture that in some way every time that we have harmonies in a song. But yeah, and then I think if you asked any of us, like all five of us would say different people. But for me, the Cocktail Twins and the Cranberries are like the big ones.
Yeah, yeah, no, I'm sure it's like all over the place between the five of you, but it
Yeah.
comes together so well for Divine Sweater. And I mean,
Thank you.
I'm sure like the five of you is already a balancing act basically, like going into the studio when you work on something like Talking Stage and add a whole nother band with Crystal Casino Band. How
Yeah.
does that dynamic work, or how do you deal with like a whole other group of people coming into the process?
Yeah. I love the Chris Casino band. They're like our really good friends, and we've gotten to play with them a bunch of times, which has been so fun. And yeah, I sing on two of their songs. And for them, I think it's cool to be on their songs because like they have a really different sound than us, and it's like similar, but it's different. And so it's like cool to be like a female voice on their songs. So for those ones, like they had written the song and then they kind of just like were like, this is the part where I want you to sing, like just do your own thing. And like there was no input at all, which was really fun. It was like a fun little experiment to kind of like get in like Pete's mindset or like whoever wrote the song's mindset and just try to like write something that is authentic to me, but then also matches like their vibe. So that's been fun. They're such a great band and they're like really good friends to us. So
Yeah, yeah, awesome. And so for songs that you end up releasing or things that go on an album, I was checking out your guys' Spotify to like obviously take a listen, figure out what you guys sound like learn a bit more about you guys. And for Spotify right now, two by two or two times two, two x two, however you want to say it, is your like most streamed song with over 3 million streams. Did you expect anything from that, like when you were in the studio with it, or was it just like something that kind of happened?
Yeah, that was like the first song we ever put out, which is funny that it's like done so well. And that was basically this new album that we're putting out and the album before it that we put out last year. That was the first time we ever worked in a studio. Like before that, we were doing like bedroom recording. Like that was
Yeah,
recorded in our bedroom. So it's just kind of like cool to see that it has like good fidelity and that people like it. I would say it's a really important song in our live set. So I think anyone who sees us live probably, you know, like gets that might be the most memorable song that we play live. So maybe that's driving some of it, but it's awesome. Like I'm so glad that that song is still doing well.
yeah, awesome. And I mean now with the latest release, you just put out Night Glitter as a single, and you have a bunch of other singles from this upcoming album. Go listen to those if you haven't, by the way, on their Spotify or wherever else you listen to Divine Sweater. But with this upcoming album, what can fans kind of expect from it, or do you think these singles kind of encapsulate it, or is there still more to the album that they'll hear like when the full thing comes out?
Yeah, there's still a lot more that's coming out. And yeah, I would say that this album is like a little bit darker, I think, than other things we put out. We are like a pretty kind of like goofy, fun band, but we have had like a tough couple of years with just like losing loved ones. And so this album is kind of like a combination of just, our normal, like us writing about just things that are happening in our lives, but then also it touches on like loss and grief as well. We also like moved to New York from Boston, and so there was like that's been really fun, but and really a great challenge. But there's been a lot of kind of tough stuff that comes with moving and like uprooting your life too. So I would say that this is probably our darkest album, but it's still gonna have a lot of the same like feel. Like there's a lot of fun songs. Like a lot of the songs we've already put out, like Deep Side and Counterparts, are kind of like fun songs still. But then they're in the mix that there's like just some darker ones, I would say. Um, and the last album we put out was like a concept album, and so it was very like fiction based, and I would say this one is very like nonfiction, like rooted in things that are actually happening, just telling like real stories. So
Yeah,
yeah.
awesome. Yeah, that's super cool that it's getting a big like seems like it's going to be a very authentic or like honest sound from you guys and honest lyrics probably coming with
Yeah.
that. Um, and you still have a couple of like you said those happier songs. So it's not a complete shift. There's still going to be
Right.
those happy moments. But with I mean you mentioned moving from Boston to New York. Is
Hmm.
that like how has that affected the band at all or like the creative process or just what is it like? Because I mean, I've not lived in New York City, but I've lived in New York in one of the suburbs, and every time I go to the city, it's just hectic and crazy,
Yeah.
and so um, wherever it is, and I have a friend from Boston who's like all for Boston and doesn't want to leave and anything like that. So what kind of sparked the move from Boston to New York?
Yeah. Yeah. So we're still kind of like split up. So some of us are here, some of us are in Boston. Um, but that's fine because like those are our two kind of like biggest markets as a band. Like we play in both of those places a lot. And my whole family's in Boston, so like I am there a lot as well.
Yeah,
And I love Boston. I just like I lived in Boston my whole life. Like I went to college in Boston, and then um, we started working with a record label in New York, and then we just were like kind of here a lot, playing shows and like recording, and some of us were just like we should just like give this a
it
try.
yeah, it just made sense.
Yeah, and like it's just such a collaborative community. Like so many of our friends are musicians, so we go to so many shows a week, and like it's just a good practice, I think, for us as a band to be like going to shows a lot, being friends with people who are writing music that's like similar to ours and then also really different from ours. And so I think that's been a really, really good creative experience for us.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I mean, it makes sense. New York is a great music scene and
Yeah.
everything like that, and so it seems pretty perfect that, and it's also they're close enough and intertwined enough that like you can go back and forth, like you were saying, pretty often and pretty easily. So it's not too bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so in the past, you guys have been featured on a bunch of Spotify playlists like Chill Vibes,
Mhm.
Radar US, all these things. Having been like playlisted, I'm curious how much of an effect would you say it has on like a band's growth or streams, or is it more of just like a matter of recognition?
Yeah, I would say like it probably really helps some people and then doesn't help other people at all. Like I think
Yeah,
it really just depends. And like I think you can see on our Spotify, like our biggest songs are not the songs that were put like that were on those playlists. So like it's cool and it's like a good recognition, but I think it's not something that like any artist should get caught up in, or like it's not I saw like a video recently that said like Spotify is like a promotional tool. It's not like a measure of your art. Like so I think if anyone is like who's listening is like ever thinking about that and getting caught up in how like they haven't been on the playlist or like, whatever, it's just something I think that's not even worth worrying about, because you can have a song do so much better like without it. Like you don't need it for a song to do well, and it doesn't mean just because a song gets on it, it doesn't mean that it's like a better song than your song.
yeah,
And then also like if your song doesn't get on it, it doesn't mean that it's not a good song. These are just like people picking these playlists. Like it's literally just people who work at Spotify picking them. So it's definitely not worth like getting caught up in. Like it's cool that it happened, but yeah, it's not like a huge game changer, I would say.
yeah, definitely. And
Yeah.
it a point I think for any artist or band to think of is like, um, oh jeez, I forget who it was, but I had someone on who was talking about like, similarly they've been put on playlists and they were like they brought up the point. I'm sure there are people who do, but like me specifically and them as well don't like go to these playlists and like listen through
Yeah.
them. Like it's cool to see and like get the mood of and see who's on there, but like I don't really know many people who are like opening these playlists and like listening to them or even shuffling them. It's a lot of
Yeah.
like people's libraries or looking up like artists and things like that, and so it is like not a make or break thing for streams, and so nothing that should have too much pressure put on it.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
yeah, and then also like receiving the title of Indie Artist of the Year from Boston Music Awards. What does that recognition, especially in a hometown, mean to you?
Yeah, that was so nice. It was we were there, we like performed, and like our family was there, and it was just like a cute, really cute, awesome
Yeah,
thing. But it means a lot. Like we just like we've been at this for a while, and it just was like cool to get that recognition to play the event, and then also just to get that title. That was just really really nice. It was really good recognition. But like there's just so many great bands in Boston. So it was just cool to be, I guess, like even in a category with any of those people who like are in Boston or came from Boston. Um, yeah, so was super grateful for that.
yeah, awesome, awesome. And so going forward with, I'm sorry,
Okay.
with
No worries.
Divine Sweater, do you have any like goal of where you want to take it, or are you just kind of here for the ride and seeing where it takes you?
Yeah, so we played Boston Calling this year, and that was just such a great experience. That was like the biggest show we've ever played, like biggest audience, biggest lineup, and that made me really want to continue to grow so that we can play more festivals. Um, and like yeah, playing really really big festivals is it's so competitive, and so I think like a good goal for us as a live band is just to like put out music that people like, and so that that grows our fan base, and then obviously like do well in our live sets so that people come to our shows, and then hopefully, being able to play more of those big stage festivals would be an
Yeah,
awesome goal to
definitely.
accomplish.
And
Yeah.
so I'm curious if you love festivals this much, how do you go into the festivals with any different mindset than like live solo shows, or is it like just all a live performance and it's all like you're gonna get the same thing from your concert in whatever city versus like the Boston Calling set of Divine Sweater?
Yeah, I think, um, well, the I guess it probably depends like how big the people playing festivals are, but like usually this like our set was it was like pretty it was like a short set, so we had to be like really intentional with how do we showcase to all these like people who don't know us, who we are,
Yeah,
and how do we do that like really quickly. Where like when you're playing your own show, for the most part, like people know who you are, so you kind of have a little bit more, I don't know, range and like more time up there. Do some like funny covers, like things like that, where the festival set was like very short and we just had to like put our absolute best songs out there so that, people could get a good taste of who we were. I'll say like one thing that happened was just like it just happened so quick. And I feel like if I get to play another big festival, I want to like take it in a little
enjoy
bit
it.
more.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it happened and I was just like, oh my God, I'm so nervous. Like this, we just gotta like do this perfectly and then get off the stage.
Yeah,
But
reasonably so though, because Boston Calling is
right.
huge. So I feel like it makes sense that you got caught up in that big moment because it
Yeah.
is it is a big moment for any band, especially one from Boston. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, and so it's crazy, and yeah, I think you do get more freedom or flexibility with like a solo show. Because I mean, I so on Tuesday, I went to see 21 Pilots, who's my my favorite band, and like
Nice.
they in the middle of the set like were playing like a like deep cut that like only the huge fans know, which like
Yeah.
obviously like works in a setting like that, and the whole like stadium was singing it versus like at a festival if there's like half the crowd or some of the crowd that doesn't really know you, like it's not gonna have that same effect, or it's not gonna like
Right.
be as meaningful to them. And so yeah,
Mhm.
it's super fun with solo shows that like you can kind of bank on the fact that they know what you're gonna play, they know the words, everything like that, and so
Yeah.
it's awesome. And to slowly start wrapping up here, we still have a bit more,
Mhm.
but with just like some hypotheticals that I like to ask people that come on. For
Yeah.
you, if Divine Sweater got like a chance to make a song with any artist in the world, who would you want to collaborate with, or band? It can be a band as well, but just like the dream collaboration, basically.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Well, I'll give my answer, and I don't know if it's the same as everyone else's, but I'm gonna say Always. They're like one of my favorite current bands. And like it would be an absolute dream to collaborate with them or like open for them or anything like that. I love them. I think they're so good, and I think our sounds are really similar.
Yeah, awesome. And speaking of live shows, maybe it is Boston Calling or anything else. Do you have a live show you've played that's your favorite?
Yeah, definitely Boston Calling was my favorite. Yeah, and I got to like see some people that I love like backstage as well, which was
That's
really
awesome.
really
Yeah,
fun. Yeah. So it was a good time.
yeah, awesome. It's on top of the performance side, like you said, like just meeting the other acts or seeing these bands and artists that you've grown up listening to, like
Yeah.
or became a fan of, like seeing them in person and like getting to meet them is always awesome at festivals. And do you have any kind of bucket list of festivals or venues that you would want to play as Divine Sweater?
Yeah, I we haven't played the West Coast, so I feel like just playing a West Coast tour would be a dream. It would be awesome. So definitely that. But like Lollapalooza would be incredible. Gov Ball, just like honestly, any big festival is gonna be like the best show ever for me. So I would love to do any of those. But yeah, so West Coast run, I think is like the most attainable next step thing that we should do.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. And for Divine Sweater, is there a song of yours that you've released that's your favorite, and that can be from what went into making it, the final product, like anything? Do you just have like a favorite song that you've made?
Yeah. Um, yeah, I feel like I like different ones for different reasons, but um, yeah, I feel like I Knew You Better is like a favorite for me. I like the recording, and then we our live version of it is like pretty different than the recording. So I also like our live version, and playing that live is such a fun song, and I think people can connect to it pretty easily, even if they've never heard it before.
Yeah, yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess last question here. I mean, you have the album coming out September 13th, coming up soon. And so if you're listening to this, it's probably out or about to be out or something like that. So go listen to it. But
Thank
with
you.
the album, like, is I mean, we talked a bit about what people can expect from it, but is there anything down the pipeline behind that? Are there shows coming with it? Any music videos or anything else beyond the album that people can expect?
Yeah, we're gonna go on tour right after the album. And those tour dates and locations are on our website, divinesweater.com, or any of our social media. And yeah, so we're gonna go for like a month or so, do a bunch of shows, which is just gonna be really fun. And we're gonna play like almost the whole album live, which is gonna be awesome and such a good little change up from previous tours. But yeah, and then I think we have like one or two more videos coming out as well with the rest of the
Awesome.
songs.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
It's so cool that you're gonna be playing the album because I feel like I would like to see this, but I don't think I have yet of an artist like playing through or playing a full album of theirs like on tour or anything like that. And so I think that's just like really gonna be a special thing for both you guys and the audience there. And yeah, I can't wait to hear this album, hear anything that comes up after it, and see where you guys go from here. So thank you so much
Awesome.
for coming on. It's been great, and feel free. You mentioned some of them there, but like websites, social medias, streaming, anything you want to shout out or promote, feel free to do it now.
Yeah, so on all social media, we are Divine Sweater. If you look that up, we're going to be the only ones there. So if you follow us on those, that's the best way to keep track of where we're playing and anything new that we're putting out. Divinesweater.com is our website. You can buy all tour tickets there. You can also buy merch. We have a lot of different merch. We have like hats, sweatshirts, t shirts. And then you can also pre order until September 13th or order after September 13th the vinyl for the album as well.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. Well, go check them out. Get ready for this album coming September 13th. Pre-order or order the vinyl. Get merch. Go follow them. And any way that you can support Divine Sweater. I'm excited for this album. And yeah, can't wait to see what's coming up. Thank you so much again for joining me.
Awesome.